not there in person because they decided to use some film of her in 2019 and not have her on set. But should she be invited? Has she been cancelled? Let's speak to Kellie-Jay Keane, who's founder of Standing for Women, joins me now. Kellie-Jay, very good morning to you.
Good morning to you.
So it does look as if, although J.K. Rowling hasn't been entirely eradicated, she has been sort of somewhat cleansed of this. Should she be invited in person, or because of her views on trans and trans rights and transgender issues, and that being at variance to many of the stars who were in the films that she spawned, maybe it was right to keep her away?
I think it's quite despicable that she's been kept away, to be honest. I mean, they've said in this independent story that she's been included, but she hasn't. We knew that the footage was going to be used from previous sort of years. So she's still been omitted. I think it's just despicable. It's her entire world, her idea, her talent, her brain that invented this entire story. I can't imagine the thinking, the meeting where they decided that she should be excluded.
I mean, I sympathise with that, trying to see the other side. And the other side would be, she's such an influential person, she's such an influential individual, that if she comes up with views, then the torrent, if you like, of abuse that can then be landed at the feet of those who are trans because of the views that she holds means that it makes it very difficult for them.
I don't think understanding biology and knowing what a woman is brings abuse on anybody. I don't really see that the truth is responsible for abuse. And I don't think that anything she said would, even the most terrible of human, would be able to interpret what she said into something that meant people should discriminate against anybody. She simply defended women. And I think that's a really brilliant point of view, and one that most of the country holds. It's just simply not true.
It doesn't necessarily make it right, because I would stand up for her right to speak out. I wouldn't necessarily agree with her views on the matter of trans issues, because but then what do I know? But here, for example, in the papers today, and I think it is worth just picking it out, because it's one of those stories that, when one sees it, that we're talking about somebody whose life was pretty much cancelled because they were born a man and then they transitioned and became a woman, became a model, and as soon as they were found out, they were outed about it, and they've passed away, and yet it's still sort of, it's still a sort of major story that, if there is discrimination in this way, then it can have a terrible effect on somebody's life.
What's that got to do with J.K. Rowling saying that women are adult human females and deserve rights? What on earth is that? What has that model got anything to do with J.K. Rowling? If somebody says that they're a female and they're not, and they get found out, then they've been dishonest. Does it mean that they should lose their livelihood? Absolutely not, depending on obviously what that job is. But no, I don't really understand how that's got anything to do with J.K. Rowling.
Well, it's got everything to do with it, because if, for example, you have a look at the discrimination that does arrive at people. So this individual here, born as George Jameson, transitioned and then became a model, and then when she was exposed as having been originally born as a man as opposed to the woman that she portrayed, then her life was kind of over and the discrimination started. And I guess it
Meaning
is.
What? How is her life? How is his life over?
Well, do you call him or her?
Totally him.
You see, that's the problem, because they were born a man and then. And then they became a woman, so they can never be her.
Absolutely. I don't think any man can ever become a woman. No.
So then there's the problem, isn't it?
What, not lying?
Well, it's not a question of not lying. It's a question of not necessarily understanding that somebody can be born in somebody else's body, in the sense that you can be born physically a man or a woman, but inside you may be, and it has been recognised, that you might yourself be an opposing sex in terms of how your brain works. Are you saying that person should be discriminated against for the rest of their life because of the physicality of it?
No, I'm saying what you've just said there is absolute nonsense. There's no way that you can be. You are your body. There is no separation between your biological sex.
No. You see, I'm afraid that's wrong.
No. In what possible way would the DNA of a human build all the cells one sex, except a tiny little bit of a brain that would be a different sex?
Well, that's not necessarily. I mean, are you an expert in this?
Well, I'd probably say I was more of an expert than somebody who thinks you can actually.
Well, you're just telling me that you're an expert because you're female, and therefore
you use the word expert. I didn't use the word expert. You did.
Yeah, well, you're telling me that you can't possibly, but you have no expertise to back it up. Whereas doctors who are experts will say that people can be born. I mean, do you accept?
No,
that
doctors don't say that. People who are invested, medical professionals who are invested in the industry, might well suggest that there is such a thing as being born in the wrong body. Doctors who actually care about patients and truth and honesty don't say such things.
Can okay? Let's just establish that. Can you be born? Can you be born gay?
I think there are two routes to homosexuality, according to someone like Sheila Jeffreys. You can either be born gay or you can choose to be gay.
You can choose to be gay?
Well, yeah, that's according to
Really?
people who have written about it. Yeah.
Right.
I mean, you'd probably have to survey the entire population of gay people. I certainly know some gay people who don't think they were born gay, and I know plenty that do.
Right. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, and so you don't think that you could be born female, but in fact, in terms of how you operate, you are a man?
No, I think you can probably be born any sex and behave in any way, and that doesn't really change your biological structure.
But isn't that because you are certain on who you are, in the sense that I'm pretty certain on who I am, and therefore we can come at this subject with the knowledge and the experience that we have. But you can never be in the body, in the mind, in the brain of somebody else. And in fact, by saying the things that you're saying is pretty hateful, pretty disturbing, and pretty unpleasant.
How is it hateful? I think what you're saying is pretty hateful towards women, actually, that somebody can just rock up and decide to change.
They don't decide.
Of course they do.
No, you see, that's the problem. That's the problem. You're assuming that they do, whereas I'm saying, I don't know. I'm not an expert in this, and I'm not somebody, and therefore, I am unsure. But people tell me who have gone through transitioning, it's probably the most difficult thing to face, to confront, to deal with, and because of the views of people like you, it means that they are facing discrimination at every turn, and you're making their lives worse.
I just don't want men in women's spaces, and I don't care how those men identify. So it's up to everybody, however they want to live their lives, that's fine. But when it impeaches upon my life...
How does it impinge on your life?
Well, if I want to go in a female-only space and there's men in there who decide that they're women, then it's no longer a female-only space, is it?
But then men were told that they wanted to have men-only spaces, and then they were told that that was discrimination. They weren't allowed to do it.
So are men more unsafe now they can't have the golf clubs?
Well, it's not a question of safe. It's just that it's cake and eat it, isn't it?
Well, it is for women.
Right.
It is a question of safety for women. We are much
What, so
less
all men are
safe
predators?
in unisex spaces. No, not all men. Just the one. Some are, and we don't know which ones they are. That's why we have segregated spaces.
Right. I mean, isn't it better that we try and train all people to be a little bit more respectful to each other?
Well, when we don't have any men committing sexual assault, rape and domestic violence, then I will totally agree with you that we could do that. But until that happens, I'm afraid...
And so women don't commit those crimes as well?
Not at the rate of men, no. As they certainly don't commit rape.
Right. Okay. I am slightly staggered by your views on the basis that...
that biological sex
I may have to change my mind. Maybe it was right that if you take those views, maybe you should be cancelled.
Wow. You're on Talk Radio, right?
Yes.
Okay. And you think people should be cancelled for having a view?
No, I don't. I don't think they should be. I don't think people should be cancelled, and I would like people to have different views. But it's just I find it staggering that you would want to have this kind of discrimination perpetrated against people who are born different from you.
No, I want men out of women's spaces. That's not born different. That's a biological fact. And that biological fact determines whether or not somebody is a risk to women.
And is it okay if men... Okay, all right, fine. No, I understand. No, I understand. So is it okay if men said that they wanted women out of their spaces? Is that all right?
Do you mean like private spaces like toilets and places where men might undress?
Might be.
Well, absolutely. Of course women shouldn't be in those spaces.
Okay, and what about other places?
Like what?
I don't know.
Like what places?
Bars, restaurants, or anything else? I mean, should we just go back to segregated society?
The reason feminists of old decided that they wanted to eradicate some of those men-only spaces is because in those corridors of power, that's where important conversations were taking place, and women, by not being allowed in those spaces, were out of the conversation. That is a very different thing than wanting to keep men out of women's spaces, like when women are undressing. I mean, I will ask you the age-old question. Does my 15-year-old daughter have the right to go in a female-only space and expect there only to be females?
But if there are only females, if somebody is or has transitioned, then they are a female.
Well, 90% of men that say they transition have no intention of taking hormones or losing their genitals. And so as far as I'm concerned, you don't transition anywhere. There's no such thing. Nobody ever changes from one sex to another. But certainly what we're talking about predominantly with men is men over the age of 40 deciding that they want to dress as women. It's what we used to call transvestites. And so this whole transgender just totally loses the fact of what really is going on. Most people who call themselves trans are not transsexuals. They're transgender. They're transvestites in old language.
Right. Okay, well then let's leave the old language. Kellie-Jay Keen, founder of Standing for Women. Thank you very much indeed for joining us here on Talk Radio. Made us somewhat late for the news. I
just don't want men in women's spaces, and I don't care how those men identify.
You see, I'm afraid that's wrong. No. You see, I'm afraid that's wrong. See, I'm afraid that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. No. You see, I'm afraid that's wrong. Cancelled. Are you an expert in this? Cancelled. Are you an expert in this? Cancelled. Are you an expert in this? Cancelled. 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 Are you an expert in this? Cancelled. Maybe it was right that if you take those views, maybe you should be cancelled. So then there's the problem, isn't it? You should be cancelled. You should be cancelled. Maybe it was right that if you take those views, maybe you should be cancelled. Cancelled. So then there's the problem, isn't it? No, you see, I'm afraid that's wrong. Cancelled. 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 That somebody can be born in somebody else's body. Born in somebody else's body, in somebody else's body, in somebody else's body. Somebody can be born in somebody else's body, born in somebody else's body, in somebody else's body, in somebody else's body. It's not a question of safe. It's just that it's cake and eat it, isn't it? 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 Are you an expert in this? You know, but then what do I know? That somebody can be born in somebody else's body, somebody else's body. Maybe it was right that if you take those views, maybe you should be cancelled. Maybe you should be cancelled. Maybe it was right that if you take those views, maybe you should be cancelled. Maybe you should be cancelled. Maybe you should be cancelled. So then there's the problem, isn't it? And there's the problem, isn't it? Are you an expert in this? Are you an expert in this? Well, it's not a question of safe. It's just that it's cake and eat it, isn't it? Mine. Maybe it was right that if you take those views, maybe you should be cancelled.
Wow, you're on Talk Radio, right?